You know, we haven't covered many boss characters in the competitive history series, so how about we add one of the game's more iconic bosses to the list at long last? GORO, the original Shokan, first appeared in the very first Mortal Kombat as a boss fight before Shang Tsung, and is, I suppose, the first official wall that a player would experience, I suppose. This guy took all of your spare change in the arcade, and it was a totally new experience from the characters that you'd fought before. Now, GORO has had a strange journey in the official titles, as although sometimes he is just a banned boss character, he's still been in a few installments, and there's enough to talk about to put together a complete picture. How good was GORO overall, and where did he often fit into the meta of each game? So, straight away, technically his first playable appearance was Mortal Kombat on the Game Boy, but we're not going to cover that one. That wasn't a tournament game, so it doesn't count in this series. That said, my name is Ketchup, and today we uncover the competitive history of GORO. When it comes to consoles, GORO's first playable appearance was Mortal Kombat Trilogy. He looks a little strange here, mostly because they used his original MK sprite work in a game that at this stage had ultimate MK3 levels of detail. But I'm still glad they included him because it just would have felt wrong otherwise. That said, GORO is not playable in the N64 version of Trilogy. Neither is Kintaro. Even though GORO is just a banned boss character here, I still wanted to talk about his moves and some funny tricks that exist, because, well, you know, it's his first console version. May as well start out with some weird stuff, right? First of all, basically every normal is doing 25% damage or more. 4 hits is more than enough to win around here, and like I said, he's a boss character. Uppercut is a huge uppercut animation-wise, and although it looks impressive, it's actually one of his lower damage normals. His standing kick is seemingly his strongest standing button, dealing almost a third life. Like the other Trilogy bosses, GORO can jump, but he can't do any attacks from that jump. It's just a funny button. GORO has a grab here that does good damage, and it can end combos. In the corner, after certain launches, this adds fantastic damage. Fireball is super fast, huge damage again, and it has no pushback in the corner, meaning that landing it point blank becomes a combo tool. Half-life for 2 hits. Spinning Clothesline is a really fast advancing attack that launches people in the corner. It allows for a second one. Now this is one of your tickets to near TOD situations, because it's so fast and it does so much damage that, yeah, it is your best move for the most part. Now it's worth noting at this stage, GORO does not have the tracking stomp attack. Only Kintaro had it here. Now the fact GORO had unreasonable damage in the corner is one thing. The real thing is, GORO becomes a lot funnier versus other bosses, minus Motaro. Spinning Clothesline versus GORO, Kintaro, or Shao Kahn will launch them, but it launches high enough that you can straight up loop this move over and over, and it's an infinite. It ends against the wall, as I suppose it's some kind of infinite protection, but if you have the right screen space, these boss characters are not safe, and it's a super easy infinite too. Just do the move when they nearly hit the ground and job's a good'un. There's not much else to say about GORO here. He's broken as hell, he's a boss character, and he's definitely banned. This stuff is ridiculous, but hey, it's not allowed, so who cares? From one banned appearance to another, it is time for Mortal Kombat 4/Gold. Now I should say immediately, this is just the console version of MK4. GORO actually wasn't playable in the arcade, and in many ways here was seen by players as the, I suppose, real final boss of the game. He's the one with the boss character damage, the extra health, all the usual stuff that makes a boss character annoying to fight, and a means of ruining your arcade progress. GORO is as broken as you'd expect because he's a boss character, and as I've said, another appearance where he's banned from any sort of competitive play. However, it is worth going over his moves and breaking down just how annoying he actually was. And for the sake of recording, I'm using Mortal Kombat Gold as it's just easier to unlock him. Just access the cheat menu, press L and R together on Hidden in Character Select, and while holding them down, go up, left, and A to select. GORO has the universal normals and moves just like everybody else, but also a selection of unique normals that the boss fight version tends to rinse and repeat. Fireball is a standard projectile and it deals good damage. Nothing out of the ordinary here, just a good damage projectile. Teleport Stomp is finally where he gets his Shokan Stomp attack. It does tons of damage, and it's unblockable. Ground Stomp is a standard unblockable stomp that hits on the ground. This teleport versus fake ground pound technique started really early for Shokan characters, and even then, Shiva had this first. Two-hand swipe is a standard attack, as is super uppercut and lunge kick. These are the selection of normals that the boss version usually throws out during the fights that you'll remember being really angry at as a kid. I know I was. A big thing about GORO here is the damage of his throw. It just chunks you down, and it's pretty much like 40% or something. This character is just huge damage, single hits, some amazing combos anyway, thanks to his OTG ground stomp, and the fact that he's got like double the health of everyone else in the game. Again, like Trilogy, there is little to go over here because he is a banned character. But I wanted to show you GORO in motion here, mostly because of how some of these moves are retained in future games, and it's cool seeing the early days of how they functioned. Hey, it's time for some good news! GORO's next appearance isn't actually a banned one, it's Mortal Kombat Deception, but specifically the GameCube version that introduced GORO and Shao Kahn to the roster. Sorry. The bad news is, common opinion of GORO in this game is that he's low tier. Not as bad as Shao, don't get me wrong, that guy is some true ass, but still, GORO's not very good overall. He's very slow, feels quite sluggish, and in Deception, doesn't actually have the boss utility that he gets in the next game. He does decent damage, however, and there are a couple of things that he's still good at. Special move-wise, he's got a decent fireball, it's fast, it's got good recovery, and the damage is nice too. 12% ain't bad. He's got a launching ground pound, which is a very good move. It launches for a full combo, and importantly in Deception, ground pounds are often seen as better because jumping in this game is really awkward. This, in my opinion, is your best move as GORO. His stomp returns, and it is once again unblockable, but given the 3D movement, this move is easy to make whiff. His lariat returns, but here it's a 3-hit combo with good speed and range. If you launch someone far away, this can be a decent way to still get some kind of damage. Overall, there isn't a huge amount to discuss with his hand-to-hand stances. They both have some okay low pokes, some launches between them, even a few fast lows, but generally it is his range that you want to try and pay attention to, especially when you consider his weapon stance. GORO's weapon has good range and damage combined. His 2-2, which goes into 2-2-4, does really strong damage as well, and essentially any launcher into weapon 2-2 extensions is your ticket to 40% and more, as well as his down 2 having ludicrous range on it. GORO is a very simple character, but his damage and range on some of his buttons is where he's able to establish at least some kind of threat. A bonus about GORO in this game is some of the highest throw range, maybe even the best throw range in the game. GORO essentially steps forward to perform it, so his grab has a bit more effectiveness at distances that other characters can't establish anything from. Unfortunately, GORO just isn't a very impressive character in this game. He is exclusive to the GameCube version, and the new characters here were generally pretty weak overall. It's nice to have a fully playable appearance where he wasn't a boss character for once, though. Taking our next step into Mortal Kombat Armageddon, GORO is a fundamentally relatively unchanged character. He is a bit more strange this time round, however, as he does fit into more of a boss character design. But he's technically not classified as a super boss. It's mostly because he has a hand-to-hand stance, he has a weapon stance. He isn't tied to the one fighting style and stuff that someone like Moloch or Onaga might be. GORO isn't really talked about in the meta for this game because he remains once again a very simple character that isn't too different from Deception. But there are some changes that make GORO, in my opinion, a better character overall though. But there are some limitations that you can kind of consider them a trade-off with unique elements that fit the sub-boss character design. First of all, GORO keeps his Shokan hand-to-hand, which is better for combo damage than his Quartan stance in Deception. So this is definitely a win. All of his buttons remain exactly the same for the most part, so everything button-wise and combo-wise that worked in Deception will work in Armageddon as well. The same goes for his weapon stance, where yet again, his combo damage is fairly high. All of his special moves remain, and for another time, his launching ground pound is his most powerful move. The stuff that separates GORO in this game are the new properties that he himself has, thanks to finally being a proper boss/sub-boss. First of all, the positives. GORO is unable to be thrown in Armageddon. You could actually throw him in Deception, but that is no longer the case here. Similar to this, GORO is also unable to be launched in the traditional way, and many launchers that will cause a pop-up will just hit him on the ground. Now, you'd think these would be utterly insane, but there is a trade-off to his size in this one. GORO's movement is heavily nerfed in Armageddon. While he's in hand-to-hand, his movement and sidesteps, they're just god-awful. There's tons of recovery, and step blocking is pretty much impossible. GORO has to go into his weapon stance to move around more freely, which means if you get clipped while moving, you take extra damage. As remember, weapon stance in 3D leaves you open to more damage if you get hit. Secondly, and this is a pretty big one, GORO does not have any air combos. Instead, his jump attack is a simple kick, and it means that where other characters from previous games to this can get high combo damage using the air juggle system, especially if you use the air infinite exploit, GORO is unable to do any of this, so his combos are a lot more limited. Fun fact, actually, GORO is the current speedrun choice for arcade mode world record attempts. There's something about his ground pound into hand-to-hand that seems to work as a reliable way to win games quickly. Nothing tournament level, mind you, here, but I just wanted to mention it because speedrunning's pretty cool. GORO is definitely stronger in Armageddon, but he has new weaknesses that just didn't exist before. That said, good damage and the inability to be thrown and launched is definitely strong. He just suffers majorly in other areas. He is better, in my opinion, but not by a significant margin. I should mention here, to prevent a whole amount of YouTube comments, that Mortal Kombat 9 came out in 2011, and GORO appears there as an unplayable boss character. You can actually use him in the challenge tower for one very specific mission, but he's generally unplayable in the usual modes. You can, to be fair, use PC mods to play as boss characters, and they've even got their own move lists, so maybe once upon a time they were meant to be there, but as they are not officially playable, I will not be covering GORO's appearance here, in this video. A few years after the release of Mortal Kombat 9, Mortal Kombat X came out in 2015, and GORO is playable as the game's pre-order bonus. This is an exciting portion of the video for me because at long last, GORO is playable on the base roster. He isn't some kind of bonus character, not a secret boss, not a banned boss character, not a bonus console exclusive, not a legal boss but with unique properties. He is a fully fledged character who plays the same game as everyone else with his own fleshed out move list. It's about bloody time! GORO in MKX is super sick, and although he was never the most popular character in the meta, he is such a powerhouse in the right hands, and in my opinion, one of the game's more interesting characters overall. Now, I'm sure that many of you know that Mortal Kombat X was built on the variation system. 3 different ways to play a character, sporting different moves and game plans. As such, I would like to go over each variation one by one, talking about what each of them brought to the table. But first, let's go over his basic moves without variations, talking about, more importantly, some of his key attacks. Goro's projectile is decent. High damage, the meter burn version does even more damage, and it's an option at range, so it's better than nothing. Goro's Stomp is back, and this one on meter burn is armored on the way up, which makes it a powerful armored reversal. Goro has a command grab that hits mid. It's a great combo ender, a great mix-up tool, and is yet another armored attack on meter burn. Goro's most iconic special move here is the Punch Walk. This is a combo opener, as the meter burn mid animation will launch for a bar, but it is yet another armored attack as well. The big thing here is that you can armor it for one meter burn, spend a second, and turn it into an armored launcher, something that is rare in Mortal Kombat X by its final patch back in the day. When it comes to buttons, Goro is covered in plus frames, many of which are +2, which makes his grab, poke into grab, or armored counter poke such scary options together. His low pokes are incredibly strong, especially his down 3, and generally, many popular strings like back 1-2-1, 1-1, 2-1, they're all +2 to continue his offensive mind games. So as a base, Goro is a character who can armor you all day. He isn't short of ways to get in, and when he's close, has grab mix-ups, plus frames, and tons of hit confirm ability to put you back into a similar situation. A brawler through and through. But now we've established that, let's talk about what his variations do. Quarton Warrior is the most basic. He gains 2 extra moves, but they both serve a purpose. The first is Chest Lunge. Goro flies towards you and on hit will fling you over his head. This move is 10 frames on startup, so for the distance it covers, this move's pretty damn good. On meter burn, this move does even more damage and is, you guessed it, another armored attack. The second move is Quake, a variation of his old ground pounds where this one comes out very quickly and it knocks down on hit. It's unblockable though, so given Goro's vast amounts of anti-airs, and let's not forget armored options, creates a uncomfortable neutral for some. The meter burn version of this will keep them standing, and is actually an OTG if the meter burn version hits after a knockdown that has enough plus frames. Overall though, this isn't a super popular variation. It adds to what is already a good offensive kit, and it gives him some more range and neutral options for a potentially impatient opponent. Up next is Tigra Fury, a definite nod to Kintaro, and as such brings forward various fire-breathing attacks that Kintaro usually has. Believe it or not, to this day, this is the closest thing we've had to a playable Kintaro in NetherRealm games. From distance, Goro gains a straight fireball that on meter burn will fire 3 of them. He's got a ground fireball that on meter burn will launch the opponent, and up close a fire breath attack that is plus on hit, and on meter burn is armored. So these projectiles might not look like much at first glance, but Goro gets a fairly scary mix-up game from a fire breath on hit. Fire breath is plus 18 when it connects, and if the opponent blocks, it's actually still +7. That is a tremendous amount of plus frames for a character that has so many offensive options. Due to the slow speed of the fire breath, you can usually armor if Goro goes for it after a string, depending on the move of course, but many competitive Tigra sets that you would watch online will at least once or twice showcase a mix-up game using fire breath. It is a great variation, and it makes Goro a threat everywhere on screen, but once again, it isn't his most popular. That would be Dragon Fangs, the return of his 3D era weapon, but with a new makeover. This variation is consistently considered Goro's best overall, mostly because of amazing armor and the introduction of a low mix-up tool. First of all, Goro's 2-1-2 is different. It's still +2, so it's still dangerous, including the second hit still being an overhead. Goro gains a new command grab that replaces the original one. It is still armored on meter burn, and this grab's meter burn has a stomp ender that does ridiculous damage, even at the end of long combos. Fang Spin is a new move. It hits 3 times, and on meter burn will launch. Now the launcher isn't really used here, mainly because Goro has so many other ways to launch you instead. It is the standard spin that gets used more, as this move is only -3 on block. Basically, it means it's totally safe. It's a cheeky counterpoke or something to use at the end of a combo string, and -3 means that counterpoke armor is just as deadly on a read. The big move here is Low Fang, a low-hitting knockdown that doesn't look all that impressive. It's only a low. GORO has overheads, though, in some of his attacks, like 3 down 3 or 2-1, to name a couple. GORO now gets a true low knockdown, and it creates an almost 50-50 situation off of attacks that usually have overheads in them. Not only that, meter burn Low Fang is +7 on block, making it one of the scarier armored moves in the game due to its range, damage, and if you block it successfully, he's still plus. This variation is incredibly powerful, and if you've ever watched online MKX tournaments, you might remember Emperor Nyx mastered this variation, being one of, if not the player that put Dragon Fangs on the map back then. Nowadays, if you fight or see a tournament-level GORO, it is likely you'll see this variation. Now, GORO isn't usually in discussion for top 5 in this game. I think I've seen him there like a couple of times, here and there over the years. But I think most people will find it hard to ignore just how devastating he is at close range. He's fun, he's hard-hitting, he is caked in armor, and is one of the coolest NRS gameplay designs that we've ever seen, in my opinion. This installment is GORO at his best. A true appearance for fans of the character. And considering this is, to remind you, the first time he's properly available without, gimmicks or anything else, this was an appearance worth waiting for. And now we finish on GORO's current final appearance, and that's Mortal Kombat 1 as a cameo. GORO was one of the first cameos ever to be announced here, and although he has had some significance in the overall meta, he's generally been one of the more character-specific, and never the go-to cameo for players worldwide. What he brings to the table is decent. He just has some severe issues regarding his cameo cooldown that continues to hold him back over other options. Now, attack-wise, here's what we're working with. GORO's ambush is Raise the Roof, his iconic MKX normal turned into an assist, and it launches airborne opponents, and it hits grounded opponents as normal. It is mostly used to make you safe on block, and it is used in the air to get more combo potential. Mostly at the start of combos though, as there is a significant loss of gravity if you use this late. Punch Walk is a summon attack. It causes a simple knockdown, and it cannot combo into anything. This move we saw combo in the original reveal trailer, but didn't seem to make it into the final game. Using it standalone, this move never gets used. GORO can execute his unblockable stomp by using both cameo meters, and it is a simple, unblockable knockdown. It can be used though for some extremely situational and execution-heavy unblockable setups. Finally, GORO has an overhead launcher called Dead Weight. This combos and it hits overhead, but at high level, this move is extremely reactable. This was GORO for a good while, however, a few patches ago, he received a rather significant change. Using Raise the Roof and executing different directions, GORO can ambush into one of his other attacks, making his combo potential and general utility a lot better. In theory, ambush into Punch Walk was a really strong combo tool, for example, and ambush Dead Weight is good for extending combos beyond where he usually can. The issue with all of this, however, is that GORO's cooldowns across the board are extremely slow, and it's always been the slowest in the game, and this slow cooldown is why GORO just isn't more popular. You have to wait too long to access him versus other cameos that have a lot more often. They, not so long ago, actually did somewhat speed up the cooldowns, but it's still really slow. Just not ungodly slow. To be fair though, at one time in the game's meta, GORO was the go-to cameo for Tanya and Kung Lao. Their armor would launch with GORO and it would be safe on block, sometimes even plus on block. It was a good run for both of those characters before their armor attacks got adjusted, and then GORO just fell off big time, as they were his only characters to regularly pair with. I think a notable exception is Wraith, the Shang Tsung player from North America. He is famous for his Shang Morph GORO setups, which is one of my favorite things in the game to watch. But we gotta lay it out, that is one player and one team. Without Wraith, we would see even less GORO than we do now, which is almost never. GORO Cameo has got potential, and I know they've said that even after EVO this year there will be a patch, so we'll have to wait and see, but right now his cooldowns are just far too slow to be regularly useful in tournament play. And that was the competitive history of GORO, possibly the most banned character in history just because of how many boss appearances he's had. However, his other appearances have been quite interesting, and you've been able to see the evolution of how all of his moves have functioned over the decades he's existed. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Stay around for plenty more Mortal Kombat where that came from. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.